Do your clients have lengthened muscles? If they're postpartum, they most likely do. Is strengthening not creating the change you and your clients are trying to achieve? In today's episode, I discuss the importance of addressing lengthened muscles and what to do about them. I share my personal experience of trying to strengthen a lengthened muscle. Hello, friends. This is Lynn, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started. Welcome to this podcast episode, everyone. We are going to be talking, I'm going to be talking about lengthened muscles. And I had my own personal experience with this that kind of brought this topic to mind that made me want to share with you. And that I was trying to go to sleep. I'm laying in bed and my shoulder, the back of my shoulder, the scapula area just started aching. And I knew that I had some weakness in my shoulder because I do protraction so much with my work. My right arm is underneath people's bodies a lot, which causes my shoulder to protract. And all my scapula muscles are lengthened. And so I've been doing some exercises with a 5-pound weight to try to strengthen the rhomboids and the traps and everything. And so I'm doing the full range of motion of my arm to try to strengthen those muscles. And I can feel like my shoulder just falls forward. I sleep on my right side. And so when I sleep, I can really feel how that protracts my shoulder even more. And so all of the things that I'm doing, whether with sleeping and with work, I know that my shoulder is really protracted. And so those rhomboids are just lengthened in my shoulder. And so doing all the weights and doing the full range of motion and stuff, wasn't feeling any shift or change in what I was feeling in my shoulder. And as I was laying in bed one night, it was aching. Like the whole muscles around the scapula were just aching, and I couldn't find a comfortable position. And then I was like, wait a minute, Lynn, this is a lengthened muscle. What do we need to do for a lengthened muscle? But let's do an isometric contraction and let's do end range and let's really try to shorten it back up. And so I'm laying in bed and I just did massive scapular retraction and just kind of squeezed my right shoulder blade towards my spine and held it for a good 10 seconds. And I did that a couple of times. And I have to tell you that my aching in my shoulder went right away. And so doing the full range of motion with a weight and trying to strengthen the muscle and taking it through range didn't change anything for me. But when I did that end range isometric contraction, my achiness went right away. And so that was just a huge light bulb moment for me in regards to our postpartum clients, because I know that their transverse abdominis muscle gets very lengthened during pregnancy. And I have to say, when I first learned about, I started to work with the postpartum body, I had originally learned from Julie Tupler, and she was doing end range pulses. And I was like, whoa, that is a pretty cool idea, because we have a lengthened muscle. Let's bring it back to end range and let's pulse it to tighten it back up. And my kids were 8 and 10 at the time when I learned about, or maybe 10 and 8 and 6, when I learned about this end range contraction. And so I started doing it on myself because I had postpartum for 8 years. I hadn't done anything with my belly other than my normal workouts and stuff. And so doing that end range contraction with my belly, I noticed a significant difference just within a couple of days of doing 100 reps of end range pulses to the transverse abdominis muscle. And I was sore the next day after doing it the first time. So I was like, wow, I'm really working this muscle. And so I like to teach my clients end range contraction of that transverse abdominis muscle to help shorten it and to help strengthen it. And I know, so that's the abdominal wall that we need to think about. And I know that we're not supposed to talk about changing people's belly shape, and that's not our goal. We want strength and function, but doing end range contractions should have an effect on someone's belly and the way that that belly looks if we can shorten that muscle again. So I don't promise that with my clients, but I just teach them that because I do feel like that end range contraction really does help support more of that contraction on the exhale, because I really teach them to do it as they're counting. I don't want them holding their breath as they're doing an end range contraction of their transverse. And I also make sure that that they are doing lower belly and not just upper belly when they're doing those end range pulses, because we know that upper belly, those oblique muscles near the rib cage, can definitely fire a lot easier than the lower transverse below the belly button. So I'm always careful to make sure my clients are doing that. But my experience with the shoulder and the achiness and all that really made me think about the lengthened transverse abdominis muscle. And also the complaint that I hear from a lot of my postpartum clients, in that they complain of achiness, heaviness feeling in their pelvic floor muscles after birth. And to me, the achiness is that lengthened muscle. And when I work to help close the bones back up, get them back into their proper position, and do the intravaginal protocol that I teach, that gets the muscles to activate in a much stronger manner. And then the achiness goes away. And so I think it's important for us to help remember that these muscles get lengthened. These are lengthened muscles that we are working with in the belly and in the pelvic floor muscles. And our job should be to help shorten those muscles again. And part of helping the pelvic floor muscles to shorten is to make sure that the bones are back in their original position. And then from there, we can work on doing end range Kegels, doing holding contraction of the pelvic floor muscles to help strengthen those muscles and get them back to their normal resting length. And the other thing, we got to make sure that tailbone is back in its proper position as well. If you haven't checked out my Sacral Flexion Pattern, the free course I have on my website, please do, because it talks about the signs and symptoms to look for when that sacrum is stuck in a flexed position, which is very common after birth. And I can tell you it's very easy to miss, because I have missed it several times on several clients externally. But when I get internally, I know the signs and symptoms to look for, so that when I see those things, I'm like, oops, I need to go back and check and work on that sacrum and get it back into its proper place, because then the sacrum will be closer to the pubic bone, which will help shorten the pelvic floor muscles as well. So it's not just the side to side shortening we need to help out with, it's the front to back as well. And making sure that the sacrum is in its proper position will give greater more normal length to the pelvic floor muscles. So my overall message today is if we have lengthened muscles, isometric contractions can really help get rid of the achiness that a lengthened muscle imparts on the body. And I want to thank my shoulder for educating me in the difference and the quickness of the ability to change that by just doing a end range isometric contraction of that muscle with as max contraction as possible can really help get rid of the achiness in a lengthened muscle. And so we know the muscles are lengthened with a vaginal birth. So doing max contractions of the pelvic floor muscles can really help. But I know getting the bones back into a better position first can really help give greater support to our clients in helping them to heal after birth. Okay, so look for those lengthened muscles. Get your clients to do end range isometric contractions, max contractions of that lengthened muscle. And I think that you will find that achiness can go away instantaneously with that. Okay, so give that a try. Check out my Sacral Flexion Pattern course. That's a free course on my website, so that you can learn the signs to look for if the sacrum is stuck in flexion, and then you can know how to treat that so that you can help your clients get those muscles into a better position to be able to do those isometric contractions. Okay, thanks so much for listening in, everybody. Look for those lengthened muscles, and here's to better bursts, smoother bursts, and faster recoveries. Take care, everybody. See you in the next episode.
Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code PODCAST50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.